Good morning and welcome or welcome back to all of you. I'm Reverend Mark Abernethy, the pastor at Wapping Community Church, on a rainy day in the middle of Lent here in March, sitting in an empty sanctuary, filming the fourth installment of At the Foot of the Cross. I hope all of you, especially you who have young children in the house, find ways to make it through this day, especially since the idea of going outside may be a little more daunting today than it was yesterday. The next time you will see me in this sanctuary will be Sunday morning, where we will have our online worship service. I hope you have an opportunity to watch it live on YouTube, or if you can't watch it live, you can go back and view the service by going on the Wapping Community Church website, and you can find a link for the service. One of the things I've always loved about this sanctuary as I look around, it's wonderful when this sanctuary is full of people, but it's also wonderful sometimes to come in here at different points when the sanctuary is totally empty, because I'll never stop being amazed at how quiet this place is. If I sit here, I can listen to the traffic outside the window and I can hear it. It's a little bit muffled, but for the most part, this is a really quiet spot. And sometimes I'll sit here and sometimes I'll just walk around the outside of the sanctuary. It's a wonderful place to collect my thoughts and to reflect a little bit. One of my favorite stories from the Bible, ever since I was a small child, is the story of the prophet Elijah, which is found in 1 Kings chapter 19. It's a long story, but the prophet Elijah winds up angering Queen Jezebel. In fact, Elijah angers Queen Jezebel so much that he's forced to flee from her, afraid for his very life. So Elijah goes a long distance away. And finally, Elijah tries to hide, and he makes his way to a cave in Mount Horeb, thinking that he will be safe there and that Queen Jezebel and all her armed forces will not find him. While Elijah is in this cave, Elijah hears all kinds of things happening outside the cave, at the mouth of the cave. And he can hear this great wind that's blowing. And then he hears the sound of this tumultuous, incredible earthquake. And then he can hear a fire that's just sort of raging. And in all these things, Elijah figures, oh, God must be speaking. God is speaking in this great wind. And God is speaking in this earthquake. And God must be speaking in this fire that rages out of control. And then finally, in the way it's phrased in the story that I learned many, many years ago, Elijah hears a still small voice, and he goes out to the mouth of the cave, and the still small voice is the voice of God speaking to him. What's fascinating to me is that this story is translated slightly differently in the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible, which we use here in church on Sunday mornings and which I tend to use. Instead of a still small voice, the New Revised Standard Version says that Elijah hears the sound of sheer silence. I'm not even sure exactly what that means. What is the sound of sheer silence? In truth, it makes me think of a Simon and Garfunkel song a little bit, the sounds of silence. But I think there's something magical about the idea that God appears to us and God speaks to us in the sound of sheer silence. What a wonderful image. So my wish and my hope for all of you is that you find a moment or two today, and maybe in the days to come, moment of sheer silence. I realize that's easier said than done for all of you who have young children or teenagers in your house. Maybe you long for a moment of sheer silence, but you're not sure at all how you're ever going to find such a thing. But maybe even before you close your eyes tonight and go to sleep in the darkness, and you're thinking about what's happened during the day, maybe you just pause for a moment and stop after the TV is turned off and when you've set aside your cell phone or your iPad, and when all the talking and the thinking and the worrying and the fear is gone, take some moments in sheer silence. And I think, and I hope, and I pray that in those moments of sheer silence, you might just hear God speaking to you. Because often that's where God speaks to me. And it's times like those, even if it's just 30 seconds or a minute or 2 or 3 minutes, if you can find moments of sheer silence as you go through a day, then I think you just might feel God speaking to you, God reaching out to you, God sending you love and care and compassion and comfort and all the things that we are looking for and longing for during this time when there's so much fear and anxiety. So, with that, I wish you farewell for this fourth version of At the Foot of the Cross, and I wish you moments of sheer and sacred silence. God's blessings.